of chat or something like that happening. Um, I'm just looking, this is the first time I've done something like this across a couple of platforms, so I'm just paying attention to little messages I'm getting. But it seems to be okay. We seem to be doing our thing. So I'm just going to press on as if this is actually working, and I guess I'll find out if it didn't. Before I start, though, I want to acknowledge the traditional owners on the land in which I'm sitting and the land in which you may be sitting in as well. I'd like to pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to other Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islanders who may be here listening with me today or hanging with me today. More importantly, I'd like to acknowledge the role of traditional owners and Indigenous people of Australia as the first knowledge creators and their very deep understanding of the land, the sea and the sky forms. And so, with that, I'm so excited that I have got you here, and we're doing a 5-day circuit breaker challenge. And I'm going to be live every day at 9 a.m. just to talk you through some stuff to try and bust you out of some of the things that might be holding you back from being your best possible self at work and in life generally. And so I'm calling this a circuit breaker is because often we're on a vicious cycle of overwhelm, feeling out of control, and also, risk of failing at the important things, the things that we sometimes forget about and that we lose sight of. And so I figured let's try and get off that vicious cycle. And you'll know if you're on it, you'll have had the experience of, dragging yourself out of bed in the morning, going to an overstuffed wardrobe and still not having a thing to wear, if you've got kids, getting kids organised and off to school in the morning, getting yourself then, whatever your commute is, whether it's a commute to a working from home environment or a commute to an actual office, and sitting in traffic and whatever that means, then you get in, by the time you get into the office, you're nearly exhausted with all of that. Then you have a day of back-to-back meetings and sometimes pointless meetings, more on that on 25-minute meetings, perhaps on another occasion. And then you get to the end of the day and you're exhausted, and then you get your way back home again, whatever your home commute is. And then you've got to get dinner organised, get people settled, etc. And then finally you sit down and start looking at your emails after a crazy day, and then maybe fall into bed exhausted again just to start that cycle all over. So if that's you, we need to bust that. We need to do a circuit breaker. We need to stop this cycle and get you on a cycle where you feel that you're a little bit more under control. We're not going to solve everything in, a quick chat in a 5-day challenge, but we're going to start you on the journey of that. And what I want to do is just share a couple of things that got me off a similar cycle years ago, because this calm, cool, collected person you see in front of you wasn't always like this. I did have my own times of being crazy and out of control and overwhelmed, etc. And it wasn't until I began to practice some of the things that I write about that I began to get things back again. So that's what we want to do. Now, I'm hoping I don't have you for long each day, because I'd like you to use whatever time you have productively, but to also begin to practice some of these things. And so what I do know is that anytime we're trying something new, it could be a bit challenging. Now, I think it was Einstein who gets, excuse me, what's the word? He gets attributed with the classic saying that doing the same thing but expecting different results is a definition of insanity. And when it comes to productivity, that is so true for so many people, that just coming and listening to my voice today won't suddenly make you more productive or get you off that cycle. Reading Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, which I highly recommend, by the way, great book, classic in the field of productivity. Just reading the book doesn't help you. Coming along to a course doesn't help you. It's not until you begin to take action and begin to make changes that you actually start to, or you begin to see results. And so I want to start with you today on something very simple. and it's simply to stop. And I want you to day one of our challenge is to find time either today or in your week, or every day if possible. But we'll start little. I'd like you to find time just to stop. And so one of the things I've discovered is that people sometimes in their diaries will tell me, and these are people who I coach or work with in workshops, and they'll say, "Oh my God, I had a glorious day yesterday. I was meant to be in several meetings and they got cancelled, or I was meant to be in a training session and it got cancelled. And I had this beautiful time in my diary where I had kind of nothing to do." Now, of course, there's never a time when we have nothing to do. But in this case, those periods of time where things get unexpectedly cancelled are what I would call, you're not beholden to anyone. You don't have to be on. You can be on duty, as my niece, ex-military person, would say. You don't have to be the officer in charge. You get to choose what you do with that time, without feeling like you have to be obligated to anything. Now, that doesn't mean we do nothing. That doesn't mean we just sit. Well, it can. If you want to just sit back, put your feet up and have a cup of tea and contemplate the world, go for your life if that's what you'd like to do. But what I would like for everyone is to have that feeling. And you know that feeling. You know that feeling of, oh, yes, that meeting's cancelled. Whoa, look at that time. That's the feeling I want for you every day. I want you to have a period of time where you don't feel like you're on for anyone, that you can sit and do whatever you like. Now, I had a client recently that I spoke to about this, and she immediately said, "Oh my God, I'll be bored. What will I do in that time? I'll be bored." I'm like, you won't be bored. Think about the last time a meeting got cancelled. What did you do in that time? And she said, "Oh, I caught up on some email, I cleaned it, tidied up a bit of stuff, or I still worked." And I said, "Well, that's what you would do. So if that's what you want to do in that time, go ahead and do it." And that cancelled meeting feeling, that feeling that it's a gift, that's the gold, right? That feeling that you've been somehow gifted time. The implication of that is that it's out of your control, that somehow the world conspired to create that for you. Well, I'd love you to conspire to create that for yourself. So I don't mind what you call it. Another one of my clients refers to it as purple patches. In his diary, he blocks out periods of time throughout the day, and they're purple, blocked out purple in his diary, so he can sit back and have those purple patches, so that he can sit back and contemplate what's happening in his world. Now, he uses it for that. He literally uses it to push himself back from the desk, lean back in his chair, and kind of adopt a very philosophical view, or posture, I should say. And he thinks about what's going on and where he's at, and he loves that time. Now, before you think, "Oh my God, I'm wasting time. I would never do that. I haven't got the time for that." That's actually the point. Anything I talk to you about today or this week where you get a challenge or a hit, or you're triggered by saying something like, "I could never do that. That would never work for me. That's not possible. My clients wouldn't. My manager would crack it," or whatever you might be doing, just know that right there is a reaction to you doing something differently, making that change, or beginning to make that change. That's the thing that's going to make the difference for you. Of course, I'm going to be asking you to do something different. Otherwise, why would we be here? If I was just going to say to you, "Keep doing what you're doing, you're all good," you wouldn't be here either. So my job is to challenge you. My job is to give you something new and different to try. So I'd like you to create purple patches in your diary every day, if possible. But I'm also going to quote from my good friend, well, he's actually not my good friend, but I feel like we're kindred spirits, James Clear, who wrote the book Atomic Habits, best-selling book, the kind of book I wish I'd written. Totally amazing book. And he said in a post on socials recently, a lot of the times we set up our habits for good days, for days when we can get up and go for our walk and be on top of things and be on time, and where we can eat a good breakfast. And they're the kind of habits that on a good day when everything's going perfectly, we can do it. But actually, he said, you should create habits for the bad days, for the days when things are getting a little out of control and when things aren't going as well, but you could still do it. So I think on a super busy week, when you've got back-to-backs, I think you can still find yourself at least 1 hour a week. 1 hour a week. That's all I'm asking. A friend of mine called Jenny from New Zealand, she refers to the 1/40th rule. So I know we don't always work 40-hour days, 40-hour weeks, but she says 1/40th. Could you at least do 1 hour? Now I'm going to ask you for a bit more. I'm going to ask you to try and do an hour a day at least to try and come up with a little bit more time to chill. And it'll be exactly the same kind of feeling you get at the end of a really restful vacation. So when I have a holiday, I always know it's been the perfect restful vacation when I begin to feel restless at the end of it. And I begin to start to feel like I'm ready to go back to work. Not because I've checked my emails and I'm feeling the pull, but because I'm actually ready. My mind has sufficiently rested and now it's started to generate some thinking again for moving forward. So that's what those 1 hours will give you. They'll give you space to just think and process. Now, I've seen a couple of things come up in chat. I've seen someone refer to these meetings as a gift, and they are a total gift, Mandy, an absolute gift. But I think it's time you gifted yourself. And in case you need it, permission granted to gift yourself that time. And the other thing it is, Mandy also commented on the purple patches in the diary. They make such a difference. And if your team begins to know, and if you share with people that you're protecting your time to think, I think, pardon the pun, I think that you're able to protect that. Now, that's not to say you're being flexible. I'm not about inflexibility. In fact, one of my core values, my absolute core values, is flexibility. But what I love about, what I love about putting that time in your diary is that it gives you the choice. Because often those feelings of out of control, overwhelm, and failing at the important things, you feel choiceless in that. You feel quite at the mercy of whatever's happening in the world. Whereas when you've got those purple patches in there, you are fully choiceful about what you spend that time with. And so if someone says to you, there's 13 people coming to a meeting and you're the only one that can't get there, then you can choose to say, okay, fine, I'll use my purple patch for that today. And in later sessions this week, I'm going to talk about something called adaptive capacity, and that's exactly what that is. I'm able to be flexible enough and have sufficient space in my world to be able to adapt when necessary. And so seeing more comments, thanks Claire, I'm glad you're scheduling, and Anne-Marie, oh lovely, a cancelled meeting. That is glorious. That's kind of like you got a cancelled meeting which enabled you to do this, which gives you a bit of a purple patch. And so I'm very grateful that you chose to spend your purple patch with me this morning. Now, to help you with this, I'm going to give you a tool. I was trying to think, what's a tool that would help you block time in your diary? And I couldn't really think of anything. But I thought what might be useful is something called a habit tracker. And so what a habit tracker does is it helps you just keep track of how many days did you manage to actually get that hour that you protected as a purple patch for yourself. How many days in a row or how many weeks in a row did you get it? It's entirely up to you how you use it. And shortly I'll give you a little QR code on the screen. We're all very accustomed to QR codes these days, aren't we? So I'll pop a QR code up on the screen and you can then download this free habit tracker. And my suggestion is that you just pop it, print it out. I know it's a bit old school. Print it out, pop it next to you on your desk. And each day that you manage to successfully get yourself a purple patch, and can I even say, even if it's by accident? So if Anne-Marie, she could count today if she accidentally got a purple patch, go ahead and count that. You can take it. And then also begin to count the hours that you managed to block for yourself. Now, any of you who are thinking, beauty, I already block out lunch, I'm going to say, good for you. And do you actually take that lunch break? Do you actually take that lunch break? I'm going to suggest that if it is your lunch break, I'm good that you take your purple patch over lunch. If that's the best you can do, then I'm going to suggest go ahead and do that. I'm going to suggest that you try very hard to take the full hour and that you be restful in that time as you're enjoying whatever you're snacking on, and resist the urge to just check and respond to emails at that time. I want you to rest your brain as well. If you already take a lunch break, the real deal is here, you should be able to do this as well as. Because here's the thing, as leaders, mostly in a knowledge economy and mostly as knowledge workers, your job is to think. And we are paid for our smarts. And if we're not making time to use our smarts effectively, then we're actually not doing our job as effectively as we'd like. And so this purple patch isn't about you goofing off. It isn't about taking a break. Although, take a walk, get some fresh air. I see Mandy in the chat. Go for it. Take a walk. Because that's a double whammy. We all know, the neuroscientists know, that when we take a break and go for a walk in nature, you get a double whammy of both the fresh air and the break. That increases our ability to gain access to our prefrontal cortex or our neocortex, or our prefrontal lobe. That ability, our executive function, our ability to think and problem solve effectively. And that's what you're paid for. And so you should be giving yourself the best possible opportunity to give your brain the space to do what you're paid for, right? Linda, that's a great idea. Leave your phone behind. We shouldn't be taking our phones on those walks. I get that we sometimes feel a little bit addicted to that. And, what if someone needs me? I'm like, well, if it's a real emergency, they'll find you. If it really is a big emergency, they'll find you. And let's face it, it might only be for an hour. Surely the world won't collapse. If you work in an organisation where the world might collapse because you're unavailable for 1 hour, I think there's more going on there than you just needing a break. And so, again, I'm going to quote my friend Jenny, who I was speaking to earlier this week, who gave me a really lovely quote around leadership. And she says, we think for leadership our currency is time, but actually it's attention. And if we're not able to put our attention where it's needed and we're unable to give things our full attention, then maybe we're not bringing our best selves for ourselves, for our team, and for our workplaces. And so I'm going to invite you to have a crack, just try and see if you can block out some purple patches in your week to give you the opportunity to put your attention, first of all, on a little bit of nothing or a little bit of thinking to enable you to be more focused when you do need to have your attention on. And Mandy, go ahead and take as many photos as you like, darling. Permission granted to take your phone, to take photos of your beautiful walks, just in case you need it. So if this feels useful for you as a start, so the step one of our circuit breaker to do something different is to block out some purple patches in your diary and protect them so you have space to think. And so to help you with that, here's a QR code. If you just hold your phone up and scan that, it should take you to a page, fingers crossed, should take you to a page where you're able to download the free habit tracker for today. It's about an A4 page, print it out. And how it works is you nominate the month that you're on, the habit that you want to track. So you would circle at the top, you'd circle July, I'm guessing, because we're just about to finish June and head into July. And then you can track for 30 days. It's just what's the habit you want to track? It might be that you want to track today would be taking your purple patch, taking your time, and you would just literally tick every day that you do that. So, thanks, Mandy. Glad the system works. Thank you for letting me know. And so that's what I'm going to end with today. And I'll be curious when I check in tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, just to see, did you manage to get your purple patch in? And then tomorrow I'll give you another tool around, if today's about stop, tomorrow's about taking stock. What is it that we've got on our plate? And I've got a great tool for you to help manage taking stock of where you're at. So I'm going to finish up today. And thank you all for coming on. I'm glad it worked. Enough of you have chatted so that I know that it worked. And a couple of you have already downloaded it. So that's fantastic. And I'll see you tomorrow morning, same time, 9 o'clock live. See you then.